Ever spend all day fishing and catch nothing? That's what happens to hackers when Cisco Duo's on watch. Every login, every device, every user, protected. Cisco Duo. Phishing season is over. Learn more at duo.com.
Oh yes, it is time once again for the Marketing Geeks.
You've been waiting, and now we are back.
That's right. Hello, this is Andros Sturgeon.
And I am Justin Womack.
And together, we form the supergroup known as the Marketing Geeks. Thank you. we are. This is our second episode, so we just want to thank everyone who listened to our first initiatory broadcast. It was a mighty success, wasn't it?
It was, and we've been bombarded with a bit of fan mail recently.
Oh my God!
So,
thank
back
you, everybody.
off, people. Come on.
Yeah. So today we are going to talk about all things marketing and all things geeky. So we love marketing, we love being geeky, and it is now time to go over the week. And what have you been doing all week, man? Tell me. You have a spoiler-free movie review for us, don't you?
I do.
Trading at Schwab is now powered by Ameritrade, giving you even more specialized support than ever before. Like access to the trade desk, our team of passionate traders ready to tackle anything from the most complex trading questions to a simple strategy gut check. Need assistance? No problem. Get 24/7 professional answers and live help, and access support by phone, email, and in-platform chat. That's how Schwab is here for you, to help you trade brilliantly. Learn more at schwab.com/trading.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Well, we can get into that, but first let me just talk about some things going on with my tech business, my internet marketing business. So as you guys know, I run my own freelance consulting and internet marketing kind of company, and I've had some computer issues this week, and I was just talking with you about that, Andros, before we got recording here. But I think I'll bring it on the show here. I have a lot of backup computers, and they all seem to be malfunctioning at the same time. But it's a good thing I have even more backups. So I have backups for my backups, which is keeping me afloat. But my laptop last week started getting the blue screen of death error. And if you don't know what the famous BSOD, blue screen of death, when you get that, you're in a lot of trouble. And pretty much the only option I'm probably going to have is rebooting the computer with Windows. But it's been a bit of a nightmare. And my other computer, the fan went out, so now it's overheating like every 2 seconds, and that one's not going to be operational. But now I'm on computer number 3 now, and this is why, for any business owner, you should always carry 3 computers at all times.
That's right, in your back pocket.
That's exactly correct.
Carry them in your wallet, one in your wallet, one in your back pocket. So yeah, no, it's a good idea. And one of the things I really lament, I was a big fan of Amazon for a short while. Had this unlimited data storage for $59.99. You could store as much data as you wanted on their servers. So I used that as my backup until one day they just said, "Oh, we're not going to do that anymore." And next thing I knew, I had like terabytes of stuff that I had uploaded that I just kind of left there. And it's funny because it was almost like when I moved, I left all that shit in your garage.
Yes, I do. It's still there.
No. And what I'm probably going to end up doing is just say, yeah, pretty much throw out everything at some point in the near future. And I don't even know, like, I know there's a few things that I want, but I can't even think about what those things are. And so it's like anything else. Like, just, when I moved to the Netherlands, I sold everything. I got rid of everything. I gave a bunch of shit to you. And there was, including my favorite stand-up desk. But there was a part of me that, as that was happening, I was like, oh God, I really don't want to let this stuff go, But now, as I look back, I couldn't even really place anything that I lost in that, except you got my good sound equipment, which at some point
I do. I have your Zoom, which is my Zoom now because of the law of how long I've had it.
Yeah, well, I told you it was on indefinite loan until I come to get it, but
until I come for it.
Yeah, I hope.
What you're talking about though is so true, and that's, I mean, if you think about like the storage industry, the storage business world, they bank on exactly what you're talking about. People have emotional connections to things, but when you separate somebody from their stuff, and for me, I had a bad car accident 4 years ago where I was in the hospital for months and months.
Why don't you tell, for those of you who don't know, this is a pretty wild story. Do you mind sharing this story, because it's quite something?
I will. But let me just let me keep it on track here, and then I will go back and talk more about the story. But
I don't know if I want to hear it, or anybody else at that point. So it's okay.
Yeah,
we can move on. We can move on.
The point I'm trying to make is, when you're in the hospital and all your life is kind of hanging in the balance, you don't think about like, oh crap, I really wish I had my Zoom audio recorder like at my bedside right now, or I really wish I had my Lego set from when I was a child, or I wish I had my 1,000 book collection sitting right next to me by my bed. I mean, these are things that it's and I don't know if it's like a psychological barrier, because we know what we paid for these items, and it's like, oh, I can't just get rid of them because I paid this. So I'm losing, like a fear of missing out. I'm going to lose all that if I get rid of it. But it's kind of crazy, and I still struggle with this, even though I'm like consciously aware that I'm being a bit of a hoarder in some respects. But yeah. It's crazy because yes, I have no need for the stuff. Like half the stuff sits in my garage, even my own stuff, and I haven't even looked at it in 2 years, but it's still there. And if you were to give me like a rational reason why it's there, I can't really tell you.
Yeah,
it's the emotional.
Yeah, and so when I moved to the Netherlands, which happened pretty much after the Trump inauguration, Trump was elected. And then I spent a long time, like everyone else, going, what am I going to do? I have a 3-year-old son. Do I want to, raise him in this environment? Yes, I am a left-leaning commie pinko. So say what you will, trolls. But when he got inaugurated, I decided, you know what? I'm gonna check out the Netherlands. My wife is Dutch, and so I thought, okay, I'll go visit, see what that's about. I fell in love with it. And a few months later, I literally just got rid of everything. I came here with 2 suitcases. And one of those suitcases had my computer in it. The other one was just like whatever clothes I was going to bring. And that was it. And I have to tell you, it was incredibly liberating. That said, we moved recently to a new place, and we still had to pack up a bunch of shit and get rid of a bunch of stuff. And it's amazing.
It sneaks up on you.
You. In the fabulous Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, the novel by Philip K. Dick, who is a friend of my father's, and they made the movie Blade Runner based on that. There was this nice little touch where in the background there's this commentator who has the most popular show in the universe, and he's talking about this thing called Scrapple. And Scrapple is the small bits of paper that you have on your desk, and you have to continuously prune it because Scrapple tends to multiply. And if you don't take care of your Scrapple, then it will multiply until it takes over your house, and eventually it will take over the entire universe. So
and it will become Scruple.
I think that joke probably was better in your mind before it came out of your mouth. I'm
Yeah, I have no idea.
I don't know either. So
I just say random things.
It's okay. It's okay. I do too. Fish, whatever. So Geek News. It is rumored that Kathleen Kennedy may be replaced with due to her debacle with Star Wars and her handling of the Star Wars franchise, because one must admit the Star Wars franchise has been mishandled. And when it was decided that they would take it out of the hands of George Lucas and give it to someone responsible, I had no idea that they were going to basically run it into the ground. And so the latest news is that Kathleen Kennedy, who's been running the Star Wars franchise for years now, may be replaced.
That's interesting. I haven't even read that story yet, but it makes a lot of sense. I mean, after the debacle that is Solo, something's got to change, because first of all, no movie studio likes to lose $100 million plus on a major franchise tentpole, and with the direction, I mean, there's really, after The Last Jedi, they've pissed off their core fan base. I mean, I'm sure a lot of these fans will never ever abandon Star Wars, but there's going to be a chunk that are kind of fed up and they've had enough. So I understand a little bit about the backlash, and I get it, but it is crazy how you take a franchise that's like pretty much it's hard to screw it up.
Yeah,
it's unkillable, and they're almost killing it. And after the Force Awakens was a huge success too. That wasn't the problem. I think that movie has its own problems in that it's not original, but that wasn't the problem. It was really The Last Jedi and Solo that are really taking the ship off the wheels. Off.
I was actually a fan of The Last Jedi. I actually felt it was a very powerful movie because the movie was all about failure. But then it is also a movie that, as I look back at it, it felt I don't know. I mean, what the trouble was? It was really, and I think we talked about this last week. When they started off on it, J.J. Abrams started with like a premise, and when he turned it over to Rian Johnson, he basically said, "Do what you will with it," and there was no real like discussion about how there'd be a 3-movie arc. It was just kind of, I don't know. It was all so random. I little disappointed. So here's the interesting thing about the Kathleen Kennedy thing. No one wants that job. They're having trouble because, first of all, you got to have a lot of experience to run that kind of franchise, run Lucasfilm, because it's also Lucasfilm is also Indiana Jones, which obviously they're going to reboot, and some other franchises. But that is like, think about running Lucasfilm, like the amount of weight and pressure that must be,
Yeah. And then Disneyland is launching, and Disney World are both launching Star Wars theme parks that are going to be coming out, I think, this year or next year.
Yeah.
And those are billion-dollar investments practically. So, I mean, there's a lot riding. They really cannot afford to lose, the fan base on the IP. And think about like your Target and all your stores with like baby clothes are just flooded with all these Star Wars labels and Star Wars logos. I mean, it's an everywhere franchise. So
absolutely.
So
and you know what?
It's almost better to leave it to stop making. They're probably better off stopping making movies if they're doing damage than to and just sell the merchandise.
Well, that's why they've the standalone movies they're not going to do anymore, and it seems like everything's on hold. But and it unbelievably, I Star Wars was like, when that came out in 1977, I was 7 years old. It changed my life. I mean, I saw it at the Mann's Chinese Theater. Nobody knew what it was really. And I was one of the first people, like, before anyone really knew what Star Wars was. And I even had the Star Wars figures that you had to send away for. Do you know about that? Do you know about this whole thing? Like,
yeah, I mean, I drew, I mean, so I was -6 when Star Wars came out. I hadn't been born yet. But my brother was born in 1980. And we grew in, I guess he probably started collecting the action figures earlier on. So I don't know how the action figures got to my house.
Well,
but I know that I had all the originals, and I have like the Jabba the Hutt playset and all those, and those things are worth a fortune now.
Well, going back a little bit further, this is some interesting little Star Wars lore. So the movie came out in 1977, and while it was being made, they were in the middle of adding the effects, and they hadn't quite finished the effects yet. And so they showed it to the people at 20th Century Fox, and they watched it. And without the effects, without the music, you just have kind of this, wooden acting and not so great dialogue. It really wasn't, the dialogue wasn't so great. So the producers are at 20th Century Fox kind of look at each other and they said, well, can we just kind of end the movie here and wrap it up because they were still filming it. And they said, can we wrap it up where they save the princess from the Death Star? And George Lucas said, no, they have to blow up the Death Star. And they said, well, maybe we could do that in the sequel. And they knew that they felt that movie was going to be a stinker and they were going to lose money on it. So he said, I'll tell you what, I will forego my director's fee. I'll basically take a cut on my director's fee if you let me have the rights to the sequel and the rights to the Star Wars toys. And they kind of looked at each other and they said, oh, there's going to be Star Wars action figures. And so they gave it to him. And then when when Star Wars finally came out and it was a huge hit, they were suddenly inundated with everybody wanting Star Wars toys. So the only way that you could get them, because they had to sell them right away, was you had to mail away for it. So you basically went to the toy store and you got a voucher. And this is what I did. I went and I got the voucher, and then you sent away for it, and they send you the 4 Star Wars action figures in the mail. And I got one of those, and you opened it up, and there was Luke Skywalker. It was that was kind of a whole new thing. And if I had kept that and just kept it sealed, the first Star Wars action figures, that is worth about as much as probably a couple of Bitcoin. So
probably
if I
true.
Could go back,
when you let it touch air, and when you let it touch air, then the value goes down.
Yeah, when you let it into the hands of a 7-year-old who's a Star Wars fanatic. But had I known, I would have gone back in time. I would have bought a bunch of those. Sold them all for Bitcoin, bought Bitcoin when it was $35 a coin, and then sold them all in last November. And while we're time traveling, I also would have written an album and then sued Michael Jackson for all the money. I don't know. But, If you could, let me ask you something. If you could go back in time, what would you do?
That's a good question. I mean, my initial thoughts would be I'd go make some serious cash with either investing or winning the lotto several times over. Yeah, I mean, I'd probably bring the sports almanac with me and pull it Back to the Future 2, and then become the future Biff, which we kind of it's funny. There's a lot of comparisons to that movie and the current administration in the White House.
I thought you were going to say a lot of similarities between you and Biff, but I don't see it.
That too. No, that too. I'm definitely Biff 2.0. I'm just the calmer version. But just wait. Just piss me off. Just do it.
Just you wait. So I'd like to give a spoiler-free review of The Incredibles 2 because I have a small child, and of course, when you have children, you're going to see fucking children's movies that you just.
I can't wait.
Oh my God!
I have nephews. I have 2 nephews and I have a niece. And I went to my niece's house over the holidays and we watched the Smurfs. Which, I don't know what it is. The one with Justin Timberlake in it.
Yeah.
And we had to watch that movie 5 times, and I was only there for 3 days.
Oh, the horror!
I can only imagine what's coming for me. And the payback for what I put my parents through watching Ninja Turtles every single day and the Ghostbusters TV animated show and all those.
But you know what though? Here's the kids shows admittedly are getting very, very good. And Steven Universe and Adventure Time are exemplary. They are so good. They are unbelievably good shows. And so you'll have all of those. You'll have some of the shows on Netflix, like the one by Guillermo del Toro, Troll Hunters. It's a great show. And so when we were kids, there wasn't a lot of kids movies, and now some of them are really good, which leads me to Incredibles 2. If you haven't,
the problem with a lot of the TV shows that I see out there, at least my nephews, my brother's kids, they watch the Disney Channel a lot.
Oh God!
And it's sometimes it's so lazy on those channels because they just bank on their IP. They're like, oh, we have Donald Duck, so the show, or we have Mickey Mouse, so nobody cares what the quality of the show is. We'll just put out crap, and everybody will love it because of the characters.
Okay, so, are you ready? Are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Okay, this is because before I get to my Incredibles review, I want to talk a little bit about Disney, and I'm going to give you my Disney rank, so my Disney rant. So hold on. I'm okay.
Let me warn you. I am a shareholder. I have like 3 or 4 shares.
Hold on, just moving this over here. I'm putting my soapbox. Okay, I got my soapbox. I'm standing on my soapbox. Are you ready?
Did you catch that though? Did you catch that? I am a shareholder. I own like 4 shares of Disney, so I might be at a conflict of interest here. So
I heard that. So full disclaimer: Justin owns stock of Disney. So first of all, every single Disney film, not every single, but basically from the inception of Disney to now, for the most part, with few exceptions, every single Disney film and TV show on Disney Channel, the mother is either dead or absent. Right? So, Bambi, Cinderella, you have The Little Mermaid, Lion King. The mother actually is there, but she's completely ineffectual. Like, where's Simba's mother during that whole thing, right? You've seen her.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. So the mother is either dead or absent. In the Disney
Aladdin,
shows,
is he an orphan? Is he an orphan in Aladdin?
He's an orphan, and she has her dad, but no mother, right? So every single Disney character, the mother is either dead or absent, which means that the little girls who want to be princesses, they don't want to be queens, they want to be a princess because they have all the power and none of the responsibility, and the only way that they can be complete is to find a man to complete them. Meanwhile, in the Disney shows, think of Hannah Montana, think of iCarly, think of all these other Disney shows that exist. Again, mother is either dead or absent, right? And what they do have is they have friends that they kind of hang out with, and they're so snotty to each other, especially in these Disney shows. The way that these characters interact and talk with one another is so bratty and so unbelievably harsh that the kids who are watching this start to act like them. They're totally disrespectful. And there's, again, no mother. The mother's dead or absent. So you think Hannah Montana, for instance, where you have this strong father figure where Hannah Montana kind of flies off the deep end, does something dumb, and then the dad is there to kind of reel her in and talk some sense into her. Well, unfortunately, most little girls do not have dads like that. Right? So they behave like these little girls, but they don't have the dad character to reel them in. And then, as is with a lot of these Disney products, like Hannah Montana, Britney Spears, even going back to Annette Funicello, you have them become slowly sexualized. So then they become these sexual objects. So as their careers take off and they go from being cute and these little girls are following the behaviors of these young women, and then they become sexualized, they still continue to follow that behavior pattern, but they don't have a father to reel them in. So they end up acting like them. And then, of course, this leads into the whole porno culture that we have, where porn is freely available. I'm not knocking porn. I'm an avid porno watcher myself, but I don't want my 13-year-old stepdaughter watching it, right? So
fair enough.
Yeah. So the point is that the erosion of the like a strong female sense of self has been partly because of Disney, where women expect to have their prince come and save them and make them whole, make them complete by waiting for their prince to come. In The Little Mermaid, she gave up her whole life simply so she could be with this guy who she falls in love with in 2 seconds, right? And so
what's the impact here? Let's say that Disney is doing this on purpose, or back then they were anyway, before back in Walt Disney's time. So what's the end game?
The end game is to erode the empowered women, and that, my friends, is why they call it Disney programming.
Oh, I like that, programming.
Yeah. Interesting. So now, some of these exceptions, of course, are some of the Pixar movies, which have very strong, balanced characters, and that leads me to The Incredibles. So, did you see the first Incredible?
I did. I don't really remember it. It's one I checked out like once, and I remember enjoying it and liking it. I've never been someone that's reconsumed Disney movies, other than like the ones I grew up with, which were like Lion King and Aladdin. The other ones I don't really watch over and over again. So I've seen it, but I don't recall all the details. Yeah. I remember liking it. That's all I can tell you.
Well, buddy, you're going to be watching a lot of these things, so you got to know. You got to separate the wheat from the chaff. You know what I'm saying? So, The Incredibles is a really good one. I mean, keep your son away from all other Disney films. The Pixar movies are great. I showed my son when everybody was watching Disney films, Moana was fantastic. That was probably one of my favorites because it didn't have that dynamic. And she was being raised to be a queen and not a princess. And The Incredibles is about a family of superheroes, and they have they have their troubles, but it gets into midlife crisis and being a family and how to deal with all of it. It's really well done. And The Incredibles 2 is equally matched, directed by Brad Bird, who did some live action stuff. But The Incredibles 2 was equally as good. And I highly
did Brad Bird do the sequel?
He did. He did do the sequel.
He did. Okay. He did the Mission Impossible. I think it was the fourth one.
Yeah.
It was. I don't remember which one was that.
Ghost Protocol. Maybe?
Rogue.
Yeah.
Ghost Protocol. That was the one. Yeah.
But anyway, really talented, and it was sheer enjoyment. I loved every frame of that movie. I would have to say that Incredibles 2 is probably one of my favorite movies of the year. And one of the ways that you can really tell if a movie is has strong female characters is something called the Bechdel test. And the Bechdel test is a way to evaluate the portrayal of women in media. And so what you have to do is you have to look at how the females are portrayed in a particular piece of media, and if it features two women talking to each other, they have to talk about something other than a man. So a lot of media, if two women are in the same room, they're just talking about a man, that piece of media has failed the Bechdel test. So that's a cool way to determine whether or not something actually has some balanced female characters. In The Incredibles and The Incredibles 2, the female characters are very strong and they have good dialogue and good motivation. You look at something like The Little Mermaid or Sleeping Beauty or any of these other Disney properties, failure on every level of the Bechdel test. So there you go. I'm going to now, here I'm moving my soapbox. I'm getting off the soapbox. My rant is done. Thank you very much, everybody.
Very, very powerful stuff.
Thank you.
I do think we should probably talk about some marketing topics. I mean, we're talking about how Disney markets to the world, so we are tying this into marketing. We're talking about the way that they've influenced culture and society through these movies that have infiltrated beyond just pop culture. They're in your homes. All this information. So
they're everywhere.
This is interesting.
And let me ask you this
question. Goes into
because this ties into it. So have you noticed, and I want to know if anyone else has noticed this, when I was a kid and Star Wars was out, everything was about the Rebel Alliance, right? It was all about nobody wanted to be caught dead siding with the Empire. Why? Because the Empire was evil. But have you noticed that a lot of the marketing around the Star Wars franchises seems to deal with the Empire and pictures of Darth Vader? And have you noticed that? Is it just me that the Rebel stuff seems less pronounced than the Empire stuff?
That's interesting. I've never really thought about that too much, but yeah, I mean, as from a character standpoint, I mean, Darth Vader, who is the bad of the bad, is probably the most popular character to come out of that entire franchise. I mean, in terms of merchandise sold and T-shirts, other than, I mean, Yoda does sell a lot of merch too. I see a lot of Yoda T-shirts and things like that. That's interesting. No. So what impact would that have? I mean, I'm going to say, I know I haven't really thought about it, but so the fact that they're marketing for the Empire, do you think that's keeping people associated with the establishment, or what is your take on that?
I don't know. I don't know if it's the cart leading the horse or the horse leading the cart. I mean, is it the fact that because Disney doesn't market stuff unless they know it's going to sell? Are people more interested in Empire stuff because the United States is turning into something much like the Empire, or is Disney pushing the pushing the needle just a little bit to make people?
Well, I would argue that this has been going on longer than the last couple of years. So I mean, I've seen the the Empire marketing stuff has been more than just The Last Jedi. I mean, that's been going on for a while. I've seen the T-shirts,
well, of course,
like join the Empire,
Yeah.
you know, recruiting, all that.
So it's like, yeah, but it's interesting because a lot of the marketing is like, choose a side, and that's like some of they have these games like, which side are you on? And when I was a kid growing up, I remember it being like there was no question. Of course you're going to be with the rebels. Of course you're going to be with the side of good. No one would choose to fight with the Empire unless you're a psychopath. So is it that we are now a culture of psychopaths, or is it more that these are all rhetorical questions. I don't have it.
It's all right. So, you've seen season 1 of Westworld. So let's look at like the Westworld question here. So the idea behind that show is that you've created a park where people can go out and live out their villainous fantasies without the repercussions and consequences, right? I mean, that's kind of like what the movie The Purge is about too, which is a crap. I mean, like kind of not a great movie, but concept wise. So I do think that people like to simulate being villains, and some of that might leak over into real life. But I do think that there's more of an attraction that if people want to be villains, but they also don't want the consequences that goes along with it. So I think that's what we're seeing here is they're living out their little fantasies. And that makes sense. I mean,
oh yeah, totally. Except, well, my take is that if I could go to Westworld, I might go on an adventure, but I'd probably spend a lot of time in the whorehouse having threesomes with robots. That's just me, but I'm a dirty dog, and
if you watch the last episode, that wasn't considered cheating because you had that conversation in advance. So.
That's right, and that's right. And still, I still can't get an answer from my wife. So if it's a robot, but it's artificially intelligent, and let's say I download a piece of software into that particular robot, but it's your algorithm, but I like to spend more time with it. Again, just, whatever. So marketing, man.
Well, let's talk Disney. Since we're talking Disney, I just want to share a few things. So from a marketing standpoint with the whole company, Disney has announced recently that they are going to get into the streaming industry. So I actually think this is going to be a very powerful move for them personally, because Disney not only owns all the Disney characters, but they own the entire Marvel universe. They acquired Marvel Studios, so they don't own the comic books, but they own all the movies, at least the ones produced through the ones in the main Marvel universe. And they also own Star Wars. So if they were to create a streaming service that featured all the animated kids content, plus you throw in Marvel, plus you throw in Star Wars, I think they got a juggernaut on their hands. And that so that's hence why I've started acquiring stock. I've been buying very slowly, but I do believe that the company is going to have some big growth, because if you look at like Netflix and their expansion, it's going to Disney getting into streaming will only hurt Netflix, and it'll help Disney, especially with their built-in market.
And they've got
they're also going to undercut the price. So they've announced that they're going to start the price down to like $5 or $6 a month when it launches, and then I mean it'll probably creep up there, I'm sure, but they're going to get they're going to start low and acquire market share, and then they'll be like, surprise.
Well, yeah, of course,
$20 a month,
of course, especially when some of the shows, because the Game of Thrones guys are going to be doing a Star Wars show for that network. And just to update, the Fox was just acquired by Disney. Originally, they were going to offer $53 billion with a B for it, and then Comcast stepped in, the most loved company in America. I actually love Comcast. I worked for Comcast for 6 years, and I one of these days I'll lay out the story of Comcast because I know some inside shit. But
I forgot to mention that, but that's a huge other video library that they'll have for their streaming network.
Which they
own Fox. They're getting Fox, all the movies, right? Exactly. So they can take that whole video library, put that on the streaming service. That's a good start. I mean, you take Disney, they already have all the kids content, plus the 20th Century Fox movies, plus the Marvel Studios, plus Star Wars.
Decades of material and all the characters and everything. I mean, there's like so much. So Comcast made a bid for Fox for $65 billion, and then Disney just like the other day, they came back with $71 billion. So they're going to pay $20 billion more for it, but they're going to get it. And the
thank you Comcast for that. Disney says.
Well, I'm not a big fan of like these conglomerate mergers that, because at the end of the day, the consumer is hurt. However, that said, the fact that the Fantastic Four and Spider-Man and all these other
Incredible Hulk,
well, it's mostly the Fantastic Four. The fact that the Fantastic Four and the X-Men could now be folded into the full canon of the Marvel Universe.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, and Deadpool too, actually, technically.
Yeah, and you add that all up, and that to me is going to be kind of worth it.
Yeah, no, that will be, and they might end up kind of rebooting things after Infinity War here. But I don't know if they're going to bring Deadpool in because he's too rated R. He doesn't really fit doesn't fit their community. But if they totally got a new cast for X-Men and Fantastic Four, then absolutely worth it. Plus the villains they get the Silver Surfer, they get Galactus, which is a big one.
Oh my god! I mean, the whole
there's a lot of villains attached.
I think and strategically, I really do believe that Disney did this specifically now because they're about to start on this whole new phase of Marvel movies, right? Because this phase of Marvel is coming to an end, and so they're going to reboot and start. So of course, Galactics and the Fantastic Four, and pulling all those characters into this next phase. It's perfect. They can do a whole new reboot of the X-Men, and it's going to be. It gives me shivers to think about it. That said, I do find that it's going to make for a mega evil company. So,
yeah, well, at least there's even bigger bads like Facebook and Amazon and Google or Alphabet, whatever you want to call them, that are even bigger than Disney. But yeah, we're getting to this era. We're going to have 5 companies that rule the world, and then whoever comes out on top with the legalization of cannabis. And my thought on this is that big tobacco, especially if they take away the federal ban on marijuana in the U.S., I think big tobacco is going to destroy a lot of the mom and pop pot shops and just take over that whole market. But we'll see. That's what do you think about that? I am curious how you feel now that marijuana is legal in several states, including California, where I live. It's still federally a Schedule 1, I think. I think it's still Schedule 1. So it's a felony federally by federal law. However, even the Trump administration is talking about potentially repealing that. That may or may not just be rhetoric. But then Canada just legalized marijuana last week. So it's now fully legal in Canada. So I'm interested to see if any of the corporations step into Canada, because that might be the telling sign of what will happen in the U.S. when that federal law is repealed, because a lot of them are holding back because of the federal law. Some of the corporations are holding back on moving in.
Yeah, I of course live in a country where marijuana is and has been legal for quite some time. And so is prostitution, and so is a lot of other things in this country. Mushrooms are completely legal. Well, they're not completely legal, but you can get mushrooms here. And the interesting thing about this country is because there's no debate about teaching sex ed in school. It's not a big deal. There's not the same sort of puritanical views that there is in America. They have some of the lowest rates of teen pregnancy and addiction and drug crimes, and it's really, because I could go into any coffee shop and I can get myself a big fat joint, and I can get myself some hash, and it's not a big deal. It's really But what's really interesting about it is most of the Dutch people I know, they do not smoke weed. They don't smoke it. So it's not it's really.
When I was in college, there was a Dutch kid that lived, I'll call him a kid. He was probably 18 or 20, somewhere between 18 and 20, lived next to me. And I thought it was interesting that because the Dutch, every time they would smoke, they would always make little spliffs, right? Is that what they call them? They're half tobacco, half weed.
Yeah.
So is that what, I mean, do people not smoke at all, or they smoke those, or what do you see over there?
No, most people don't smoke here. They don't. I mean, if they do, it's occasional. But I don't actually know that many people personally in my circle who smoke at all. And it's even though it's legal, it's kind of one of those things where, like anything else, as soon as it's legalized and anyone can do it,
the appeal goes
the
away.
appeal goes away. And so, again, like here, prostitution is legal. So you have, it's not like it's non-criminalized. You can just walk to certain areas and there's women in the windows, and, you could spend $60 and, not that I just did my reason. I don't.
You've heard this from a friend of a friend of a friend.
But I do know that there is a way. I'm not endorsing this in any way, but there's a website. It's called kinky.nl, and it's kind of like Facebook for prostitutes. So you could go there and actually just choose like somebody, and then it's less than dinner and a movie, right? And everybody knows what's going on. I'm not endorsing this or anything, and I do understand that there's sex trafficking and all of that stuff. I also think that if two grown people just make a decision to have a business dealing where somebody pays money for a service, and neither one of these people are coerced or pushed into it, I take more of the libertarian view that you should be able to do whatever you want. And in this country, on the one hand, it's kind of like a libertarian paradise, except for the fact that taxes are very high. But after living here for a year, those taxes really go towards keeping the society great, and it's really cool.
How's medical over there? What is do you have? How are if you wanted to go to a doctor, is it universal healthcare there? And if it is, do you have incredible waits, or is it fast? If you need to get to a doctor, is that accessible? Because I'm curious how that happens in other countries.
Yeah, that's a good question. So the way that it works is that for a family of 5, right, 3 kids, 2 adults, I pay €350. That's about roughly
per year or per month?
Per month, €350, which is about $375 in America for all the kids, and it is the equivalent of a decent HMO. It's about the same type of waiting time. You make an appointment with an HMO. It could take months depending on the doctor. But the wait time isn't and here's the main thing. This is the main thing with all of it. The biggest difference is that if somebody gets cancer or some real debilitating disease, you do not lose your home because you are sick. That doesn't happen in this country. I pay $300 a year for my medication. So there's a copay of up to $300. After that, everything is covered. My dental is included. And the other thing is that they don't really accept you if you just go in because you're a little sick. If you're sick, they're okay, well, take some aspirin and get better. And if you have trouble breathing, then call us. So a lot of people don't flood the system with hypochondriacs types of illness. So yeah, it's
how about is college free over there?
It's not free, but I met a kid who is going to one of the biggest digital design schools in the country. It's actually one of the best in the world. It's in my old town of Eindhoven, and it's designed for. It's like a video game design school. No books. It's all digital. The whole thing. The kid's paying. I think he told me he was paying $81 a month for it.
That's amazing.
It's amazing.
Is it subsidized, or is that just what they charge?
No, it's everything subsidized. Yeah, I mean the schools here are absolutely incredible. I mean the schools here are so top notch, and I pay 40% income tax. But on the flip side of that, I could send my kid to any school here, and I know this education is going to be absolutely world class. He's going to be learning different languages. He's going to be really they take education very, very seriously here. And I don't have to worry about some lunatic coming in and shooting him in the middle of class. And he's not going to have to do safety drills for some lunatic coming in. Okay, kids, what do we do if someone comes in and shoot your friends? Let's hide under the desk, hide. I mean, it doesn't exist here. So you know,
This is interesting. We're getting into like some political topics here, but I do like this. Now, what are the gun? So, what about gun laws? I mean, are they? Can you open carry there? Can you? Are guns illegal? I have no idea.
You can't get a gun.
In the Netherlands, I have no.
You just can't. You can't get a gun.
Okay.
You can't. And it's like nobody wants one, and because it is more important for people to have a safe society. And the other thing is this. This is the other kind of big difference. The other night, I'm walking through city center. All the little cities here have kind of a city center where there's no cars. You just kind of walk around from bar to bar, and it's everyone's getting drunk, but no one's getting hurt. And at this one point, I see these two black kids start to. I'm not getting racial; they just happen to be black. They started like kind of puffing up their chests and going in to fight each other. And out of nowhere, these four cops just like showed up, grabbed the kids, and pushed them against the wall. And I was like, "Uh-oh, what's going to happen here?" Like, the American side of me is like, "Uh-oh, are these kids going to get killed?" Right? This is what happened. The two kids kind of like explained what was going on to the cops. The cops defused the situation. They talked to one kid. They talked to the other kid. They both sent them on their way, and that was it. That was it. I think I lost you. Justin, are you there?
Oh, there we go. Sorry about that. Yeah, I was refilling my coffee. I put my microphone on mute, and then now I'm back.
Oh, okay.
So
okay. I thought you fell asleep.
No,
God, Andros, this story is great, but I'm just going to take a nap.
I was just going to say, no, it's really interesting.
We're talking.
It's interesting. Part of our issues here are, actually, I don't even want to get into this topic. Let's go.
Yeah, no, the short version is this. That, like, just to sum up, is that in a situation where in America, if I saw this thing playing out, I would have. There's a possibility I may have witnessed a murder, right? That could have happened. In this country, I've seen the cops interact with people, and the cops, although they have guns, they don't pull them out first thing. And because of that, the kids that were approached by the cops, they didn't get freaked out, which made the cops calmer, and everything was just like, it was just mellow, right? And so it's just interesting. I think America could definitely learn a lot from this country. And yes, I pay higher taxes, but what I get for those taxes is pretty amazing. So anyway, that's
let's jump into a few tech stories of the week here. I don't know if you've followed this at all, but Instagram has announced that they are exploring the idea of opening up the video feature to be up to an hour in length.
Huh.
So there's a feature that would allow for videos. They'd have to be vertical, I guess, for some reason.
Yeah.
But vertical videos could be up to an hour in length. Right now, they're 60 seconds. So have you followed that at all, or is that just gonna make them more like Facebook? Even though I know they're owned by Facebook.
But look, it's really interesting because when Instagram was first purchased by Zuckerberg, he bought it for $4 billion, and I remember at the time the board was.
I think it was even less than that.
It was $4 billion, and they weren't happy about it. They were like, "Oh my God, why are you spending all this money?" And today, Instagram is valued at $100 billion. So it's probably the best thing that they ever could have done. I think.
I did some research right here. They were bought for $1 billion.
Oh, for $1 billion
in 2012. For $1 billion in 2012, and I do remember the backlash that Zuckerberg took because, what is this dumb photo sharing app? But yes, it was a brilliant position because now they're basically the number 2 social network behind Facebook at this point. They're ahead of Twitter. They have more active users than Twitter, despite what you see on the news. It's funny, like I swear, like Twitter's like dead except on the news.
Yeah.
That's where you see Twitter, and they're bigger than LinkedIn. So it's amazing purchase.
Yeah, and in fact, my stepdaughter, her friends and her, that's the instant messaging app they use with one another. That's how they communicate. It's through Instagram. So
in the Netherlands, is Snapchat still a thing? In the Netherlands, is it still a thing?
it's Instagram.
What's happening with Snapchat?
They are probably. I mean, I'm sure people use it, but because Instagram has stolen a lot of the thunder, they've basically
They've copied all the features, and the best part about it, or the worst part about it, depending on your outlook, they even use the same name. They're so shameless that they're copying the features. They even gave it the exact same name, like Instagram Stories. It was Snapchat Stories, then it was Instagram Stories, then it became Facebook Stories, and they're just it's ridiculous how shameless they are copying them.
Yeah,
but don't forget that Zuckerberg did make an offer to Evan Spiegel, I think is the CEO of Snapchat. I think he offered $4 billion to them, or some around that number, to buy Snapchat. They turned them down. So Snapchat turned down the acquisition.
You know what? I just out of principle, I'm happy that someone told Zuckerberg to fuck off. That little robot. I swear he's an android.
But who's gonna win though? Because we're looking at this, like Snapchat seems to be declining, at least from an optic standpoint. It seems to be on the decline from what I've seen. And Instagram and Zuckerberg are just thriving. They're doing okay, except for that minor hiccup with the whole election debacle, which dropped their stock significantly. But now they've bounced back above where it was with pre-controversy. So they're not hurting that bad.
My guess is that it's going to go the way of MySpace, where MySpace still exists. You can still have an account, but it's probably at some juncture. There's going to be a new technology, augmented is going to kind of reinvent everything, and some new platform will eventually come online in the next few years, and Facebook will be a ghost town. It'll be sold for parts like everything else. I mean, that's kind of the way of the world. I don't see Facebook being like 1,000-year company. It's going to, like everything else, it'll get disrupted, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
now, here's an interesting article I just pulled up talking about Snapchat. Apparently, right before they did their IPO, which was in 2016, they went public, was Snap. That's their stock symbol. Google made an offer to them also for $30 billion, and Evan Spiegel turned that one down also. So they were offered $30 billion by Google, who does not own a social network other than the dead Google Plus network. So that's interesting to me that they turned that one down too for $30 billion.
I would have taken that shit. I would have taken that $30 billion and I would have lived like a king for the rest of my days. Like 30, that's Oprah money.
That seems like a fair offer. $30 billion. That's a fair offer. I mean, you're in a competitive space where people can just copy your features. At that point, they'd already copied the features. I mean, in 2016. They were already I think that Instagram and Facebook had already started copying back at that point. So that's interesting.
So let me ask you this: if you had $30 billion and like at the end of the day you would end up probably after your payouts and everything, you'd probably end up with about $10 billion, right? You could probably spend $1 million.
He's not going to get all of that. There's a lot of investors. He'll get a good chunk of that.
Okay, let's say you walk away with like $10 billion or $7 billion, right?
Okay.
Right? Okay. Which means you could probably spend $1 million a day every day of your life and still have probably the principal left over.
I guess the downside though is that you're only like 1/20th to Jeff Bezos's wealth, so you have a long way to go to catch Bezos. So that's the downside. If you want to be the richest person in the world, $7 billion is just not enough.
That's true, but the question is, what would you?
Can you live off $7 billion?
I could live. I would economize. I would downsize, and that way I'd make it go further. What would be the first thing that you would do if you had that type of money? What would you do?
That's a great question, because most of my purchases right now are with the intention of acquiring more wealth. So it's like I'm spending my money on investing in my business or investing in the market or investing in these different things. So at that point, really, even if you think about it, if you have $7 billion, like you could keep a little bit of it invested to keep the money going. But I mean, really at that point, it becomes more of a luxury and it's time to start spending. So I guess the first thing I would do is get on my world tour trip and travel, because I mean, at the end of the day, let's see, what are we gonna do with how are we gonna spend this money? So I'd like to see the world. I'd like to have a nice house and things like that. But I don't need I don't need to have like new VR goggles every single day because the ones I wore yesterday have a smear on them or something. So
I would have to say the first thing that I would do is I would probably get just the most decked out RV. I would get like the coolest RV, and I too would probably travel. I would take a year off and I'd really design my business to be exactly the way that I want. I would hire the best people to really build my business. And then what I would probably do is I would create some sort of way that I would want my life dream to become a reality, which is free internet for the planet. Absolutely free internet for the planet. Because I believe that if we had free internet for the planet, then women globally would be able to run their own businesses. So I would create a mechanism that women could learn how to run their own businesses from nothing but a cell phone, and exchange money and information, and do it in an unfiltered way. And I think that if we had free internet on this planet, then the planet would be truly free and open for business for everyone, and it would be an equal playing field. That's what I would want to do.
So free internet, would that look like some sort of we're talking like a cellular network? Because I guess really to get it across, you're not going to find Wi-Fi that way. So it'd have to be like a 3G, 4G, 5G network type of thing, right?
What I envision is some sort of device that would be like a 5G sort of transmitter that you could put on your roof and connect to other 5G transmitters that were within line of sight. And the more that you had, the bigger the network would be, the stronger that it would be boosted. And then I would use blockchain technology to basically exchange information so it'd be completely encoded. So what I'm talking about is really creating a secondary level of the internet that would be completely free and open and encoded. And all of the data would be in the cloud and be transferred via the blockchain.
Interesting. So speaking of the blockchain, so if anyone that doesn't know, blockchain is the technology, the underlying technology behind the cryptocurrency market. That's what's behind Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, all the ones you probably read about in the news. So Andros, at this point with the crypto market, I know it's been kind of tanking again. It's been up and down this year, but I think it's trading right now in the high 5,000. Like I'm talking Bitcoin here, to the high 5,000, low 6,000 range. It's been where it's hovering. What's your vision on that? Do you think that is done as far as an investment goes, but is it have a big bright future in the technology space, or what's your take?
I think the technology is solid. The technology has a lot of potential. I think it's the most disruptive technology out there right now. People just don't know what to do with it, and the problem still exists, which has always existed, which is until I can go to the gas station and pay for something in Bitcoin, fill up my gas tank, go to the grocery store and buy groceries with Bitcoin. Until that day happens, it's never going to really get a foothold into major, investments and be kind of a long-term solution for anybody. However, I do think that if the American economy collapses, which is very possible, or if the euro collapses, I think that people are going to suddenly invest into cryptocurrencies, and you're going to see them spike tremendously. So, I've got about $500 in Bitcoin. It's now down to like 450, and if I lose it or it evaporates, that's the way it goes. But I think that Bitcoin is one of these things that people are just going to hang on to forever. So I don't think it's going to go much lower because there are a lot of true believers that are just hanging on to Bitcoin until it starts to soar.
Yeah.
So.
But it's funny you bring up the making this actually work in the real world, and there's also still the dilemma that although the technology is spread across the world and Bitcoin technology is unhackable, the exchanges are hackable still. So that's like the bigger dilemma right now is you have these exchanges. Like recently there was one in Korea or South Korea that got hacked. And, millions of dollars were lost, or hundreds of millions, I think, were lost in cryptocurrency. So that's the problem with crypto right now still is figuring out, okay, so we have technology now that is like this unhackable, it's spread over servers across the planet, but how do we protect the exchanges where people are, buying and selling their coin?
Yeah.
So I think that's the issue.
That is still the issue. And so I don't know. I mean, we'll see how that plays out in the next few years. All right. So we got to wrap it up, but do you have any marketing news or advice you want to share before we close up? What's your favorite marketing technique of the week?
Favorite marketing technique? Start a podcast. I mean, come on, do what we're doing. We're having a little bit of fun here. We're running a podcast. We're hoping one or two of you will give it a listen. Enjoy what we have to say. But I think the idea behind the podcast is that you can create your own show. And it doesn't have to be a podcast, but it could be like a Facebook Live episode every week. It could be a podcast. It could be a blog. You want to create some sort of network where you're getting your message out to your people, and you're also building authority with your brand. And although we're probably ruining our authority with some of the crap we talk about here, we're having a good time. It's really, I mean, it's a great way of getting your message out there. And I do think that every brand should have some sort of show on putting their message out again. So it's either going to be the audio network, which will be podcasting, it'll be visual, which will be video, or it's going to be written, which will be a blog.
Content creation, and don't be afraid to make stuff and be terrible, because
because we're only going to get better. Obviously, we're getting better every single day.
Right. And you know what? One man's bullshit is another man's fertilizer. So, or woman's. I don't know.
Yeah. No, and we, if you listen to us, there's some good nuggets. Every week we're going to have a few good nuggets. We do go on tangents. We do a lot of this stuff, but we have, like I said, we have a good time. This is a lot of fun for us. And there are, I mean, we between the two of us, you get us on stage for an hour, and you're going to get like 3 solid nuggets of
at least 3. All right. Well, that concludes this week's episode of the Marketing Geeks. And what do you want to hear? What makes you geeky? I want to know. Inquiring minds on them. I want to know.
I want to know. I want to hear exactly what it is, and I'm excited. Join us again next week. The show will air every single week.
It's amazing.
It's amazing.
Good night, all.
From Camarillo.
From the Netherlands.
Stay classy. Stay classy. Stay classy. Stay classy.
Are they still listening?
They're still here.
The show's over.
Go home. The show's over.